The Bennett family's natural daughter was hauled back home, and my adoptive folks labeled me a phony, even trying to boot me out. My older brother, Dylan, shot me a frozen glare and practically told me to scram. Even my first love, my ex-fiance, Jake, watched as I got soaked in wine by the Bennett family's real daughter, Amber, and then insisted I apologize to her. I've always loved Amber. You're a fraud who took her spot. It's just sick, he spat. But little did they know, I was kinda lucky. Scoring a $200 million lottery win was only the kickoff. After wrapping up a filming trip, I casually grabbed a lottery ticket, and boom! 200 million later, I was over the moon and rushed home to share the news, only to discover I was a mix-up by the nanny, not the genuine princess. Her name was Amber. She was drop-dead gorgeous, perched elegantly on the sofa while soaking up compliments from every Bennett relative. Even my strict adoptive parents grinned, charmed by her. "Oh no," they declared, "we're not your folks anymore." Trembling, I asked, "Then who are my real parents?" Laura sneered. "You mean those country bumpkins?" Amber jumped in. "Mom, don't say that. The Harringtons might not be loaded recyclers, but they raised 3 kids. I'm sure once Riley shows up, everything will be just fine." I glanced left and noticed 2 middle-aged folks with graying hair, nervously perched on a tiny stool, fidgeting with their grubby trousers. They couldn't even meet my eyes. Zach, my friend, nudged me. "Riley, what are you waiting for? Those are your real parents. Go say hi." Reeling from shock, I was shoved to the floor as laughter burst around me. The couple, identified as my true parents, rushed over. The woman dabbed her hands on her shirt before helping me up. "Riley, you all right?" she asked gently. I said nothing. Then Tim signaled 2 security guards. "Since you're not the Bennett heiress and you've found your real folks, scram from the Bennett house now." The stares from everyone hit like icy needles, like a little sparrow trying to be a phoenix. "A fraud is a fraud," they sneered, "and I'd better hoof it back to the countryside and to my old life." Really, did they think being the Bennett princess for 23 years meant I'd always be that? Those I once called family now mocked me with cold disdain. I had come to share my lottery win joy, only to be cast aside. Like a soulless zombie, I just stood there in disbelief. My birth mom sighed and softly urged, "Riley, let's get out of here." Before leaving, Amber, all smiles, handed me an invitation. "Hey, Riley, there's a charity bash this Arvo. You were once part of the Bennetts, so why not come join the fun?" Despite her gentle looks, her words carried hidden barbs, just like Laura's. I watched her extend that invite coldly. Zach snorted from the side. "Amber, you're way too generous. Riley's family is broke. Attending a fancy banquet? She probably can't even swing a dress." With each word, my biological parents lowered their heads. I clenched the invitation in my fist and forced a smile. "Thanks, I'll be there." Then I turned on my heel, laughter echoing behind me as I made my way home. On the ride, my mom kept stammering about our predicament. I got 2 twin sisters in high school, bright and well-behaved, but I kept my head down in silence. My dad shot me a glance, then nudged my mom with his rough hand. I looked over where he pointed, a swanky, well-known cafe jammed with stylish young women buzzing about the latest collab. Mom peered at the price board, hesitated, and finally fished out a crumpled bag of cash, 1s and 5s only. Ignoring the judgmental stares of passersby, she counted out $338 for my dad. "Get one for Riley," she said. $338 was the cost of their signature pricey drink. "No need." I tried to stop him, but Dad had already hustled off, sweaty with a takeout coffee and a dinosaur plushie. "Riley, young folks like you probably dig this. Try it and see if it's your jam," he quipped. Tears pricked my eyes as I took the toy and coffee, nodding, "Yeah, I like it." About an hour later, I arrived at my new pad, an old but tidy house in the village. My sisters had dinner ready and stood shyly in the doorway. After lunch, Dad did the dishes while Mom prepped to take my sisters to school. Then, a delivery arrived. Mom hesitated reaching for her coin purse, but I stopped her. "I got Mia and Eva. I'll take them to school," I said. I called for a rideshare, dropped my sisters off, and slipped each $200. If I'm late tonight, grab a ride home and pick up something nice for them. Thanks, sis. I then left school and had the driver drop me at the lottery office. After cashing in that monstrous 200 million jackpot, I splurged 20 million on a downtown villa and snagged a slick Porsche. Finally, I cruised to the mall to pick out a designer dress. After getting glammed up, I headed straight for the charity gala. This shindig was hosted by the Bennett Group, with prominent families like the Bennetts and the Jamesons in attendance, so most of the guests were old buds of mine. I roamed around with a glass of OJ in hand when Amber spotted me and her smile froze instantly. "Riley, I thought you wouldn't show up," she suddenly called out. Squeezing through the crowd with a forced grin, she asked, "Riley, how's the new place? Did your folks pick up a lot of junk today?" Her words sparked a ripple of laughter. "Who's that girl talking to Riley? Never seen her before?" Someone whispered. "You don't know. The word is Riley isn't the real Bennett daughter. She's the kid of some junk collectors. The true Bennett princess is Amber, who was switched at birth by the nanny." Junk collectors. That's just filthy, man. How is Riley even here if her family's so broke? And that dress she's wearing doesn't exactly scream junk collector's daughter. Feigning innocence, Amber continued. "Riley, where'd you rent that dress from? Was it pricey? Need me to spot you some cash?" I mumbled, fiddling with my fingers. "Not too bad, just a couple million. Thought I'd have a little fun." Amber smirked, clearly not buying a word. No surprise there. In her eyes, without the Bennett name, you couldn't possibly afford it. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Are her real parents junk collectors? How can she even afford that dress? I just chuckled. Maybe ask Amber about the money. She's been with them for over 20 years after all. My words must have hit a nerve. Amber's eyes flashed with malice as she glared. Feigning sympathy, she said, "Riley, if your family can't swing it, just admit it. Don't resort to shady means. Your folks would be heartbroken." I glanced at her clenched fists and lazily remarked, "Oh, by the way, I hit the lottery for 200 million. The crowd exploded. Amber's face crumpled. Her expression fell. "Congrats, Riley," she muttered through gritted teeth. I just shrugged and poured myself another glass of OJ. Right then, Amber's voice rang out. "Jake, you finally made it." My hand trembled, spilling some OJ. Jake, my ex-fiance and first love, had been my rock. Before I left for college abroad, he'd given me a cherry blossom brooch, promising he'd wait. 6 months ago, he took over as CEO of the Winston Group. I returned after graduation and jumped into the entertainment biz, landing my first script. Everyone envied me for having the perfect fiancé, handsome, wealthy, and totally caring, until 2 weeks ago when he suddenly dumped me and pulled funding from my project. I broke down that night, but luckily my director didn't hold it against me, letting me finish filming. Even through the breakup, I kept my pride, refusing to chase him. Yet here I was, running into him again. He walked in hand with Amber, all lovey-dovey. "Amber, why are you here so early?" She giggled. "I couldn't let you wait too long." The guy who'd promised to wait for me was now pledging the same to someone else. I closed my eyes, feeling suffocated, wanting to bolt. But Amber wasn't about to let me off that easy. She and Jake came over to toast me, but as they got within a couple of feet, Amber tripped. Her wine splashed all over me. "Oh!" A sharp cry rang out, though it wasn't mine. Then a girl in a lavish dress walked past and got drenched by the icy wine. She was the favored daughter of the Blackwell clan, and Amber was the Bennett princess. This was going to be wild. I even caught Amber aiming at me, but accidentally hitting Bianca instead. Laughter and snark filled the room. Amber hadn't meant to target the wrong person. Just moments ago, she was all high and mighty, and now her attitude had crumbled. Blushing, she hustled over to apologize. I grabbed a box of tissues and handed it to Bianca. Bianca took it and glared at Amber. "Aren't you the girl the Bennetts rescued from the sticks? Fresh off the bus and with zero manners, got it. But now that you're here, you should learn from Riley about what being a real princess means. Don't end up as a wild bird with no class." Amber's face shifted between red and pale. Her lips trembled as tears threatened. "Sorry, Bianca, I'll cover your dress." Just make sure the Bennetts transfer $5 million into my account, Bianca snapped. I got the tissues back and Bianca smiled. Thanks, Riley. I'll take you out for dinner sometime. With that, she strutted off. Sis, I didn't mean to ruin your dress, Amber mumbled, then tugged on my hand. You just hit the jackpot and aren't short on cash. Can't you help me pay Bianca back? I stepped back firmly, dodging her grasp. Her hand missed, and her face showed pure embarrassment and annoyance. She spun around, pulling Jake close, and declared loudly, Jake, look at this. I'm just borrowing a little money, and she's got $2 billion but won't budge a dime. You think Riley's mad because you dumped her? It's all my fault. If only I'd met you before, Riley. Not your fault, Amber, Jake snapped, then turned to me with icy disdain. Riley, we're done. I've only ever loved Amber. Your clinginess is just gross. The guy who once put me first was now viciously harsh. My heart sank. I swayed, barely standing. A steady hand came from behind, and a warm, magnetic voice whispered in my ear, Miss Bennett, long time no see. I looked up into a pair of cool, calm eyes. Felix, the head honcho of the Hawthorne Group and Bianca's brother, known for his ruthless business ways and sharp tongue. People usually steered clear of him, but I'd only seen him on magazine covers until now. He checked on me, then turned to Jake. Jake, even a kid knows that helping is a kindness, not a duty. Why the moral pressure? Amber's your girl. If you're worried about her, just pay up, instead of letting her beg someone else. His words cut deep, and the room buzzed with whispers. Felix actually defended Riley? Her family's scraping by. How's he making Jake look bad for a kid from a poor background? Oh, don't get twisted, I replied quietly. Jake's just a figurehead. Real power's in his brother's hands. Jake's face darkened, glaring daggers at me. Felix raised an eyebrow, and Jake had no choice but to hand Amber a check with gritted teeth. Amber, take this and repay Miss Bianca, he said. Amber's face turned ghostly as she squeezed between Felix and me, managing a weak smile. Felix then introduced, Riley, meet my sister. She just reconnected with her birth parents today. Thanks, but no need, Felix, she replied coolly. That stung a bit, especially since his acknowledgement made me feel seen. Amber, clearly thrilled to see me uncomfortable, practically gloated like she was saying, See, I told you someone like you isn't worth knowing. But Felix smiled warmly. I know, Miss Riley. We went to college together. I've heard a lot about you. His steady, unwavering gaze softened his cold demeanor just a bit. You're impressive, he added, his elegantly shaped eyes charming as they crinkled with a slight smile. My heart skipped a beat, and all the earlier sting melted away. Thanks. Amber, clearly rebuffed, stomped off in a huff with Jake trailing behind. With Felix's help, we fell into a natural conversation that flowed effortlessly. Around 8:30, the party was only halfway through. I tapped Felix's shoulder to say goodbye, and he offered, I'll walk you out. I laughed. Nah, Mr. Felix, I'm just going to swing by and pick up my sisters from class. Amber, following behind, scoffed. Just the two of you? Getting into community college is a stretch. You're always dreaming about Harvard. Oh, right. Forgot. You dropped out of high school and couldn't even make it to community college either. I shot her a glare, not caring about her gloomy look, and walked off. I waited outside the school a bit. When the bell rang for night classes, students poured out. My two younger sisters spotted me, but were too shy to come over. Who wants the front seat? I opened the car door and waved them over. Big sis just got a new ride. Let's roll home. Mia eagerly dashed over while I buckled her seatbelt and then opened the back door for Eva. On the way back, I noticed both sneaking glances at me. Curious, I peeked over and they quickly looked away. I just chuckled. Mia whispered, Sis, you're really pretty, like a superstar. That made me smile wide. Well, when I'm a big star, you'll be the first to get my autograph. I want one too. Eva piped from the back. Of course, one for you two. Mia tilted her head, blinking before carefully leaning forward. Sis, I got a notice from school today. I got accepted early to Harvard. What? Seriously? I couldn't believe it and slammed on the brakes. Mia pulled back, looking scared. Sis, please don't be mad. I didn't mean to brag. She was just a kid, yet she looked terrified. It broke my heart. Hard to imagine what she'd gone through. Our folks seem decent. They wouldn't treat us badly. I gently patted her head. Mia, don't worry, I'm not mad, just surprised. My little sis is amazing, and I'm so happy for you. Really, you're not mad? Mia asked hesitantly. But Amber got pissed when I said I was top of the class. She hit me and told me not to tell mom and dad. As Mia spoke, her oversized school sleeve slipped down, revealing bruises on her arm. A wave of pain hit me. I knew Amber was jealous, but I never thought she'd hurt the kids out of spite. Sis, I'm fine. I forced a smile. Being good at school isn't a crime. You don't have to hide it. Let's go grab some cake and celebrate your acceptance. Okay, I want cake too, Eva added, clutching her seat with wide, cautious eyes. Sis, I got into Oxford, I announced, grinning ear to ear. My sisters were exceptional. All right, let's get 2 cakes and celebrate together. When we got home, Mom and Dad were still up. Seeing the cakes and hearing about the Harvard and Oxford news, they were shocked, then overjoyed. After the cake and cleanup, with our house lacking separate bathrooms, Dad boiled 3 pots of water for us to bathe while I brushed my teeth, listening to them sighing over how to cover tuition. They decided on student loans. Before bed, Mom brought warm milk to my bedside. Gazing at the steaming milk, I murmured, I'll cover Mia and Ava's tuition. I already bought a pad downtown ready to move in. Tomorrow's the weekend. Let's do it. A month after moving, I got invited to a variety show. Amber was in too. I soon found out that Jake and the Bennetts had splurged a fortune to launch Amber's career with the show. So ironic, right? They used to call me a disgrace when I tried to get into showbiz, and now they're all in for Amber. At the first show, we had to introduce ourselves and then team up. After my intro, Amber suddenly said, Riley, I heard your sisters didn't take the college entrance exams? Her words made the room go dead silent. Several guests gasped. Just as the host tried to jump in, I sat up and smiled politely. Yeah, they didn't. What a shame. Amber sighed with fake pity, but I caught a gleam of glee on her face. Community college isn't so bad, huh? I cut her off with a smile. Amber, if your folks can't swing it, I can pull some strings, but thanks. Mia's at Harvard and Eva's off to Oxford. Some folks just can't see beyond community college. Other guests congratulated me, leaving Amber's face turning red and blue as she clenched her jaw. Looks like the producers paired her with the hottest actor and me with a gaming streamer, she muttered. The show's sponsor was a card game, and our first task was to draw cards. Fewer gold cards meant elimination. Everyone started with a 10-card draw, and extra draws had to be earned. To save time, Amber went all out, dropping $4,000 for extra draws that gave her and the actor a total of 280 draws, enough for a 4-round guarantee of 4 gold cards. Others marveled at her deep pockets. With a modest smile, Amber half covered her mouth and said, Oh well, I'm just having a streak of bad luck, so gotta splash some cash to win. But with Riley's family situation, I guess you can't really afford to spend, huh? Better save up slowly. Glances were exchanged as someone whispered, Riley, should we shell out some cash too? No, I'm good. I shook my head, leaving my teammate a bit disappointed. Following Amber's lead, most of the other guests spent extra money too, though most only managed the bare minimum guarantee of 1 good card. We ended up as the last group left to draw. Amber shot me a look. Oh, Riley, you only got 10 draws? You definitely won't pull a good card. You might get eliminated. My teammate, looking dejected, handed me his phone. If we get knocked out, so be it. I calmly hit the confirmation button for the draw, and the card animation just wouldn't stop. Seeing my blank expression, Amber arrogantly sidled up. Riley, don't sweat it if you don't pull anything. It just means you're broke and unlucky. Hey, you ever heard of 6 golden cards? What? She asked, clearly not catching my drift. I waved my phone screen in front of her. 6 gold cards from 1 10-card draw. Amber was stunned. No way. My teammate quickly jumped up, shoving Amber aside and exclaimed, Riley, you're so lucky. Suddenly, he dropped money for another 10 draws and handed me his phone. I hit confirm, and the animation played for about a minute. My teammate, now on his knees again, cheered, "6 gold cards? Riley, is the sponsor secretly in love with you or what? That's amazing. I'll count on you for all my draws from now on." Envious, the other guests soon came over, handing me their phones for draws. In the end, the sponsor's crew discreetly pulled me backstage, handed me a check, and told me to steer clear of the game. And after the show aired, I got mad buzz as the chosen lucky star, while Amber, with all her connections, faced a major backlash as people mocked every misstep of hers. Online, critics lambasted her for causing her own downfall and getting humiliated. For days, Amber wore a gloomy mask, and every time she saw me, it looked like she wanted to kill me. A couple of days later, the director suddenly called to say I didn't need to come in for the second episode. Then the company sent a contract termination notice my way. When I called my manager, he mumbled something vague and only told me to come in the next day to sign off on my termination. I locked myself in my room and sulked all day. My folks didn't dare disturb me, letting only my sisters bring in my favorite chocolate lava cake and coffee. Ava held my hand. "Sis, don't worry. Mia and I will study hard and become directors one day just to make movies for you." I smiled and ruffled her hair, feeling a bit better. The next morning, I arrived early at the company, sitting in the meeting room and stewing over the upcoming discussion. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Amber and Jake coming in, arm in arm through the blinds. My manager practically fawned over them, saying, "Jake, Riley's contract termination is ready, and so is the signing contract from Miss Bennett. Once Riley's terminated, we'll follow your orders to freeze her opportunities, and all her resources will go to Miss Bennett. Ready to sign?" Amber joyfully kissed Jake's cheek. "Jake, you're so awesome for splurging on me. But do you reckon Riley would be mad if she found out I pulled you out as the investor for her first movie?" Jake gently reassured, "Amber, she's nobody. Who cares if she's mad? I only care about you." I tightened my grip on my phone. Amber looked at me with pure disdain. If she was behind Jake's actions, it wasn't shocking, but I hadn't expected them to hook up before Jake and I split. I walked over in my heels and smack, delivered 2 hard slaps, one to Jake and one to Amber. I poured all my strength into it. Amber was stunned, screaming, "Riley, you dare hit me?" Jake, furious, raised his hand to strike back. I met his gaze evenly. "I recorded your whole conversation. You can hit me if you want, but I can't promise I won't post it online." Jake retorted, "Maybe you don't care since you're not a big shot, but what do you think will happen to Amber? A cheater and a homewrecker. You two are a perfect match." Amber, terrified, clung to Jake's raised arm. "Jake, don't—" He hesitated, then slowly lowered his hand, his eyes darting to my termination contract with disgust. "Riley, look at you now. Since you left me, I'll tell you this. Apologize to Amber, and maybe I'll help you find a tiny company." "Excuse me, Jake." The boss burst in, interrupting, bowing, and apologizing repeatedly. Jake's smug look only grew more obvious. "Sign the contract to boot her out." Amber, nestled in Jake's arms, glared at me smugly. "Huh?" "Sorry, Jake," the boss said, looking startled and awkwardly wiping his sweat. "What I meant is, we can't cancel Riley's contract anymore. I just got a call from the director. Riley's first movie is out overseas and is smashing records at $6 billion at the box office. And Riley's been nominated for an Oscar, so I'm really sorry, but we won't be terminating her contract." He kept apologizing. "Miss Riley, to make up for this, I can upgrade our agreement. You'll get an extra 10%. Amber's face reddened with anger, tears nearly welling up. She pinched Jake's arm. "Psst, Jake. Are you planning to ditch Winston's investment for Riley? Just a heads up. If you piss off Winston and the Bennetts, you're going to lose a ton of partners." The boss hesitated, then I smirked. "When it comes to investments, if Winston can pull out, I can step in. I can invest $50 million to smooth over cash flow issues. Would that help?" "Oh, that's fantastic, Miss Riley," the boss gushed, overjoyed to prioritize me over pleasing Jake and Amber. "I'll call a stockholder meeting right away. We can sign the contract later." After signing the new contract, I became a shareholder in the company. Following a brief chat with Tim, I left. In the parking lot, I bumped into Felix. Fancy seeing you here, Mr. Felix, I greeted politely. Not really, Miss Riley. Felix chuckled awkwardly, touching his nose. I was waiting for you. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but this man, known for being mature and decisive, had his ears redden like a love-struck teen. I raised an eyebrow, urging him on. Felix bent down, opened the car door, and pulled out a bouquet of flowers. Miss Riley, congrats on your movie's success. Mind if I invite you to dinner? I'd be honored. During dinner, Felix tried, in his own clumsy way, to impress me. It was subtle, respectful, and not over the top. Before settling the bill, he smiled warmly. Miss Riley, I know you've been dealing with some rough stuff lately. If you ever need help, you can always count on me. You know I'd never say no to you. I thanked him. Thanks, Mr. Felix, but politely declined any extra help. After Jake's sudden betrayal, I realized leaning on a man might offer temporary relief, but it wasn't a long-term fix. I wasn't about settling for short-term wins. Still, I did like Felix, so much that when he dropped me off later, I invited him to my premiere. Felix looked surprised for a moment before smiling. I'll be there on time, Miss Riley. I grinned and closed the car door. Just call me Riley. At the premiere, Felix dressed sharp and sat to my right. I returned the jacket he'd lent me. I washed it. Thanks for helping me out last time. It was my pleasure, he replied. This was my first time watching my own film, and Felix watched intently. Throughout, I felt a light touch on my fingertips resting on the armrest. Glancing down, I saw Felix's hand there too, his fingers brushing mine before quickly withdrawing as his fist nervously clenched and unclenched. In the glow of the big screen, his profile flushed slightly. I placed my hand over his. Felix hesitated, glanced at me, and then firmly held my hand. When the premiere ended, thunderous applause filled the room. I slipped on a cap and some shades, discreetly pulling Felix out the front door to avoid the crowd. As we neared the cinema entrance, I noticed Amber standing alone, looking lost. Felix stepped in front, his tone tinged with jealousy. Don't even think about looking at her. I couldn't help but laugh. All right, I won't. My first film became a huge domestic hit. I even snagged an Oscar. To celebrate, my parents rented a ferry. During dinner on board, they handed me a file, a stock transfer document from a listed company, with Mom as the transferor and me as the transferee. I was baffled. Dad clumsily explained, when we moved, you gave us some cash to start a business. We tried stock trading, it went well, and then Mia and Eva suggested starting a company, so we did. Now it's public. We figured you might have expenses, so we transferred the stocks to you. If you ever decide not to tie the knot, this money is a sweet backup. Tears welled up as I listened. When I lived with the Bennetts, they never really liked me. They kept urging me to return after studying abroad, using my part-time cash not because they missed me, but because they wanted me to come back and marry Jake for their own gain. All these years, I never felt any real family warmth. At night, unable to sleep, I tiptoed downstairs for a walk. There was no moon, and the streetlights barely lit the way. Mosquitoes buzzed all around, and after a few bites, I headed back. Suddenly, a shadow darted before me. Riley, I hate you. Why don't you just die? I dodged quick. The figure missed and toppled. In the dim streetlight, I recognized Amber, her hair a mess, dark circles under her eyes, clutching a fruit knife. When she saw me, she charged like a maniac, hatred blazing in her eyes as if she wanted to tear me apart. I bolted, losing a slipper in the panic, but luckily I wasn't far from home. I slammed the door shut behind me. Amber couldn't get in. She just kept screaming and banging on the door, stabbing it with her knife. My family woke up from the ruckus to check on me. Mia called the cops, and soon Amber was hauled away. I sat, still shaking and hugging a pillow. Later, Mia told me someone had seen Amber slashing a poster with my face on premiere day and scribbling nasty stuff on it. The video went viral, and Amber got bashed online for a whole week. The Bennetts and Jake spent a fortune on her, but she threw it all away. And somehow, Eva mentioned, puzzled, that the Bennetts suddenly went bankrupt. Bennett's older brother was in a car crash and didn't make it. Now they're calling Amber bad luck, and she's been camped outside our house for days. After the cops took her away, Mrs. Bennett showed up. She looked worn and aged. Mia offered her some warm water, and as she sat hesitantly, I asked Mia and Ava to leave the room and handed Mrs. Bennett a bank card. Here's 500,000. The password is 6/8. Consider it repayment for raising me, I said flatly. Mrs. Bennett clutched the card, breaking down and sobbing onto her knees. I should never have taken her in. Ever since then, it's been nothing but trouble, Riley. If you ever have time, come visit home. Your brother's gone and your dad really misses you. I didn't care for her whining. You can leave now. Take care. Then I had the maid escort her out. Later that day, Felix planned to meet for dinner. I got ready, did my makeup, and headed out. The roads were clear on a weekday. While waiting at a red light, I glanced in the rearview mirror. A red BMW was barreling up behind me, not slowing down at all. My instincts kicked in. With barely 30 seconds left on the light, the car kept closing in. I hit the gas, veered right onto another lane, and checked the mirror again. The BMW kept on straight, then tried to turn to follow just as the light flipped green. It collided head-on with a Ferrari, a thunderous crash filling the air as sparks flew. I saw someone struggling out of the Ferrari. It was Jake, but he soon collapsed. Everything happened in a flash. Traffic cops, firefighters, and medics swarmed the scene. I parked and cooperated with the police. Even though I switched lanes to dodge the wreck, I still got a few points knocked off my license. I was still trembling when they dragged Amber out of the BMW. My blood boiled. She wanted to kill me. Once the police wrapped up, Felix arrived and held me tight. It's okay, Riley. It's all good now. I clung to him, still in shock and unsure of what to think. Jake was carried off on a stretcher to the hospital, and Amber was handcuffed and led away by the cops. As she passed, she shot me a murderous glare, yelling, "Riley, why aren't you dead? You should have been dead. You stole my life. How can someone like you live so well? You should be dead, Riley. Don't listen to anyone." Felix rested his chin on my head, covering my ears with his large hand to drown out Amber's venomous curses. Don't listen, Riley. In the end, Jake didn't make it. He was pronounced dead despite all efforts. The police later reviewed footage and charged me with intentionally rear-ending the car, leading to murder charges since someone died. But the Bennetts quickly paid compensation and showed remorse, so I was sentenced to 18 years. In court, I sat on the witness stand with a calm face, while Mr. Bennett couldn't handle the shock and died of a sudden heart attack. Now, the only one left in the Bennett clan was Mrs. Bennett. She broke down in court, but in the end, she could only watch as Amber was taken away. When the trial ended, I stood up to leave. Mrs. Bennett suddenly called out, and I turned back looking at her coldly. Leaning on Sophia for support, she walked toward me, tears in her eyes as she pleaded, "Riley, come back and visit sometime, okay?" That dragged me back to the old days, when I'd ace a test, run home bursting with joy, only to get yelled at for being all about studying, and when she booted me out of the Bennett house so harshly. I don't want that, I replied icily, turning away. Felix and my two sisters were waiting outside. After quick hugs with each sister, I jumped into Felix's arms. The sun was shining bright. I was finally ready to live my own life.